Hello, everyone, and welcome to our sixth and final session of American English Live Teacher Development Series 11. We're so happy that each of you are here with us today. My name is Kate, and I'll be with you along with my colleague behind the scenes, Amanda, who will be here to answer your questions and respond to your comments during today's session. So let's begin with some great comments and ideas from our participants during the last session. So this first one is from Liana in Argentina. And she says, as soon as I attend this kind of webinar, I use the information in my classes, share it with my colleagues, and encourage everyone to follow your webpage to help us grow in our professional development. What a wonderful comment. Thank you for sharing that, Liana. And El Mustafa in Morocco says, it really inspires and brings about change in my teaching. I will create opportunities for students to move from their seats. It also helps in getting my struggling students to take part in classroom activities. Awesome. And then finally, it was my first time hearing about running dictations, and I'm amazed at how this could enable learners to learn and have fun. A great session indeed. Thank you for that great comment, Catherine in the Philippines. So we love to hear all of your great ideas, comments, and thoughts. So please continue to share them in the comments or the chat box, or by emailing us at americanenglishwebinars@fhi360.org. We may feature one of your ideas in the next session. So, sorry. So throughout our series, we have been exploring the themes of topics in classroom management for in-person, online, or hybrid courses, and innovative approaches to teaching grammar, games, art, and movement. Today is our final session. Which of the sessions has been your favorite, or maybe today will be your favorite? Let us know in the chat. So here's what to expect today. Each session is about 60 minutes long, and it is we explore exciting ELT topics with our expert presenters. I, as your host, will be sharing some ideas and questions, and your presenter will be sharing most of the ideas, but we really like to hear from you, our audience. So please make sure you share your ideas and thoughts in the chat box, and we'll try to respond to as many as we can today. When our session comes to a close, you'll have an opportunity to receive a digital badge for your participation. At the end of the webinar, we will share a short link, which will take you to a short quiz. If you answer 2 out of 3 questions correctly, in that quiz, you can expect to receive a badge via email within about a week. And now we are very excited to share that we are going to have our next webinar series, AE Live Series 12, which will begin on September 15th. So you can see all of the wonderful and exciting topics that we have planned for you. It will be about English for specific purposes, 21st century skills in the English language classroom, and teaching STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math for English language learners. We can't wait to begin our session. So please go ahead and register today at the link that's being shared in the comments and the chat, and we will see you very soon. Registration is not required, but if you'd like to receive email reminders, please go ahead and sign up for the webinar series. And now for today's webinar, American English Resources for Virtual or Face-to-Face Grammar Instruction. In this webinar, we will explore several of the free, engaging resources available on the American English website, such as Create to Communicate, art activities for the EFL classroom, Activate games for learning American English, and American Teens Talk. We will also be exploring the Sing Out Loud music collection. We also will examine fun, practical options for using and adapting these resources to teach grammar topics in a variety of ELT contexts and levels. And now I'm very happy to announce our presenter today, also one of our moderators and hosts, Ellana Black. Ellana is a program officer at FHI360, supporting the Online Professional English Network program, OPEN. She began teaching in 2013 and is a former Fulbright English teaching assistant. She has also held administrative and student support positions at several universities in the United States. Ellana has a master's in TESOL and is currently pursuing her PhD in education at Drexel University. Her research interests include mind, brain, and education science, teacher training and professional development, and program development and leadership. Welcome, Ellana. We're so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Kate. I'm so happy to be here with you all. So today I am going to be sharing some of the American English resources that can be used for virtual or face-to-face grammar instruction. I know that for some teachers, teaching grammar isn't their favorite topic, and this is certainly true for me too. Before we dive into the American English resources, I'd love to hear from you. What challenges do you face with teaching grammar?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, everybody. What challenges do you face with teaching grammar? Please let us know in the chat. So let's take a look here. Alamgir says teaching tenses can be difficult. Pintili says students get bored. Yep, definitely. It's hard to teach in an authentic way from Nico. Great point. Students might not have interest from Mohammed. Maybe the grammar rules are easily forgotten from Peter. And Dr. A. Mila says that it can be hard to make it interesting and engaging. So those are some really great ideas. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. I can definitely relate to some of those. So for me personally, a lot of the challenges that I've faced or that I notice relate to making grammar exciting and creating fun and engaging activities, not only for me as a teacher, but also for students to help get them motivated and engaged in the lessons. From my experience, many of the traditional grammar activities generally focus on studying a grammar point, and they only use one or maybe two language skills along the way. So I want to create fun and engaging activities that increase student motivation, but also that integrate a variety of language skills. Another challenge can definitely be finding authentic materials that are appropriate for learners in terms of their age and proficiency level, but also things that are relevant and interesting to them. So I hope that through the review of some of the American English resources I'm going to provide today, some of these challenges will be addressed and you will come away with a few new ideas that you can use in your grammar teaching. So today we are going to look at 4 specific American English resources, as Kate mentioned. So we will look at Create to Communicate, art activities for the EFL classroom, Activate games for American English, American Teens Talk, and Sing Out Loud. Throughout the session, we'll also talk about how you can use these to teach grammar and how you might adapt these activities to fit your specific needs or context. I also want to make sure that everyone knows where to find these resources. All of the American English resources can be found on the American English website at americanenglish.state.gov. Once you navigate to this page, you will see a home page that looks like this, and there are a lot of very important and useful components here. So the first one is the About Us tab, where you can go to find more about the program. There's also the Resources and Programs tab, which we'll come back to in a minute. And then there is a link to the English Teaching Forum. If you aren't aware of this, this is a free quarterly journal for English teachers that's published by the US Department of State. So if you haven't checked out Forum, I highly recommend you go to this website and click on the link to read the current and the past editions. There is also a search bar, which is a very easy and quick way to find specific resources that you might be looking for. And if you go back to the Resources and Programs tab, you can either click on the title to see all of the resources, or you can hover over it and a menu like this will appear. And from this menu, you can search by type of resources. So you might be looking for past webinars or information about MOOCs, or even information about US culture, music, and games. So again, all of these resources are free. I highly recommend that you check out the website because there's a wealth of information there. And once you go to the page for a specific resource, you will see something like this that gives you a short introduction about what the resource is. And you can also download the material directly from this page. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you will see two hyperlinks here. You can click on the first one that says text PDF to download a PDF version, or you can download a Word document version. So I recommend downloading the resources you find interesting, because then you have them, you don't have to come back to the website every time, and you're also free to modify them and use them in whatever way fits your needs. So the first resource that I am going to talk about today is Create to Communicate. This provides drawing, collage, sculpture, and mixed media art activities specifically for the EFL classroom. Each activity lists a language objective and a suggested skill level, but these activities can be easily adapted and modified in a variety of ways. So while art projects are used in all of these activities, you and your students don't need to be amazing artists to benefit from these fun and hands-on activities. They will provide a low stress and creative outlet for students, but the focus of the activity is placed on the language component. So you don't need to be assessing students for their artistic ability. Students can use art, but the focus is still on the language aspect being studied. So today I am going to focus on the use of dioramas, which is one of the suggested mixed media art activities. A diorama is a three-dimensional picture or scene, and it can be made from a variety of materials. So we can see on the slide here an example of a diorama. And to make this, you would need some sort of empty box. A shoebox or an empty cereal box are all great options and work very well. You will also want some sort of art supply, like paint or colored paper, maybe markers. You also would need glue, and then magazines or pictures, or free local newspapers or advertising circulars, anything that your students can use to cut out pictures and include in their diorama. Small personal toys or items are also a good option if they fit with your theme and if your students have them available to include. So one of the ways that you can use dioramas in your classroom is for a daily routines show and tell, where students create a diorama depicting their routine activities. This works very well for students of all ages, and it's a great activity to do at the start of a term to help the class get to know each other. It's also really good practice for using the grammar and vocabulary that's used to discuss routine activities. So I would like to hear from you all. What are some of the grammar or common words and phrases that you use to express your routine or habitual activities?
Yeah, so this is a great activity to help students practice daily routine, grammar and vocabulary. What are some forms or common words and phrases that are used that your students would use in this type of activity? Let's see, present simple tense from Kareem. What else? Maybe some household items, maybe places such as school or the bus stop or the store. Having breakfast, lunch, dinner from Pintili. Daily activities from Sunny. Adverbs of frequency from Maiko, like often, usually, stuff like that. Great. Absolutely. Preposition of time and places. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Those are all great ideas.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So we'll definitely come back to some of these words in a minute. But to set up this daily routines activity, you would first want to have students keep a log of their daily activities using the past tense verbs. So to report what they did. For example, they might write, I woke up and brushed my teeth. So again, this is a great activity to practice past tense verbs, and then students can bring their logs into class. You can review them and make sure that they are correctly using those past tense verbs. Next, this is an example of what that log might look like. So you can see the student said at 12 p.m. they ate lunch, at 3 p.m. they left school. After students have reviewed the past tense, you will have them look through their log to pick out the activities or routines that they did often that week. So here the student is looking over their log for the week and noticing that they played soccer at recess and they read a book every night before going to bed. And then you would want to review using the simple present to talk about routine activities, and also then teach or review some of that, those words and phrases that we talked about a bit ago. So especially things like always, often, every day. Once you have reviewed this information, then you would want to have students build a diorama showing their daily routines. And we can see a picture of what that might look like on the slide. And after that, students would present their dioramas to the class using the simple present tense. So we can see here this student saying that after school, they often stock shelves at their father's store, and they play soccer with their friends at recess, and that's why they've included a soccer goal and soccer ball in their diorama. And finally, for this type of activity, the assessment should really focus on the students' correct use of the language that's used to express routine activities, not on how aesthetically pleasing their diorama was, but on the language component. This can also be done in a virtual environment. So what that might look like is essentially the same. The difference would be in how students show their diorama and present their daily routines. If doing a diorama isn't possible, students could do a different type of art project instead. A collage or a drawing would work very well here. And students would present this to the class virtually. If it's a live class, you could have them show the diorama and make their presentation. But students could also take a picture of their diorama or art project and send it to the teacher along with voice recordings. And the teacher could post that on the class webpage for everyone to see. You could even turn this into a written presentation if audio isn't possible, where students would take a picture of their artwork and then send in their written presentation for the teacher to review. The next activity that you can do with dioramas is making inferences. This is great for practicing simple present tense and practicing inferences. So to set this up, students would create a diorama showing their daily routines, and you would place them around the classroom. Next, you would want to explain that making an inference is a guess that you make based on something you observe or something you know from background knowledge or a fact. And then you would want to demonstrate how to make inferences using either your diorama or a student's diorama. So you might say something like, oh, I see a guitar in this diorama, so I think this person plays the guitar. Students would then be assigned a diorama and need to make inferences about the person who made that diorama. And then they would present those inferences to the class. So one way students could make these inferences and keep track of things is by using something like this, where they can write down their observation, what they saw in the diorama, and then the inference that they made based on that observation. And you as the teacher could even collect this after the presentation to check their written language as well. So on this slide, we have an example of a diorama. And I am wondering, Kate, if you saw this diorama, what's an inference that you could make about the person who created it? And while you're thinking, audience, I'd love to hear from you as well. So what inferences can you make about the person who created this diorama? Please go ahead and put those in the chat now.
Yeah, the inferences I can make, I think this person works a lot because I see that laptop and then there's that bubble about a beach. I think maybe they're imagining themselves on vacation because they were working a lot. I think they like to drink coffee and read, and maybe they take the bus. Let's see. We have a lot of great responses from our participants too. A busy person from James. This person reads books, drinks coffee. Samina says maybe this person is a librarian, could be. He wants to rest at the beach away from technology. Yeah, that's pretty good. Mohammed says, I think he's fond of reading, absolutely. Yep, looks like this is a reader who drinks coffee and maybe takes the bus a lot. Scenery, flowers, so maybe this person loves nature as well. So those are all great responses. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think I made a lot of the same inferences here. It seems like the beach, reading, and coffee are all things that are definitely important to this person. Okay, so we could also do this in a virtual setting. Students would make a diorama or art project and send a picture to the teacher. The teacher would then do the same, teaching of what inferences are and demonstrating how to make them. And then the teacher could post the pictures to a class webpage or send a picture to each student in the class and have students make inferences about that picture. Students could use the inference notes handout that we saw a few slides ago to make those inferences, and then they could hand those into the teacher and you could review them to check their language and also see what they were basing their inferences on. So the assessment should focus on students' use of the language and also the observations that they used to support their inferences. All right, these are two possible ways, or a few possible ways to use dioramas in the classroom, but there are many others. So I'd love to hear from you. How else could you use dioramas in your classroom? Or maybe how have you used them in the past if you have used them?
Yeah, what do you think, everyone? How else could you use dioramas, or have you done so, and what have you done? So do you have any other ideas about how you could use dioramas in your language classroom? Oh, that's a great idea from Alamgir, making contrasts. You could use it to plan a project from Kareem. That's a great idea. I think it might be, as you said, Elena, it might be fun to use this for introducing yourself in class. So student introductions at the beginning of the school year or semester. Helping visual learners from Mohammed. You can help students learn vocabulary from Lauchine, and maybe cause and effect. Very good. Great ideas, everybody. Thanks for sharing.
Great, thanks so much for sharing. I'm excited to see how you have used them or maybe plan to use them in your classroom. All right, so we have taken a look at Create to Communicate and its many options for connecting art to multi-skill language activities. Now, let's shift our attention over to Activate Games for Learning American English. This resource is a collection of games that can be used specifically in the English classroom. So there are board games, picture this games, guess what games, and word brick games included. There are also DIY or do-it-yourself game materials, including templates for board games and dice. So you and your students can design your own games or adapt the games that are provided to really fit your needs. So I am going to focus on the use of word bricks today. This is one of the mini games included in this resource. There are 140 word bricks provided, and each word brick has 2 words, one on each side, for a total of 280 words. So the 2 words on each brick are generally related in some way. So one side might have a verb in the present tense, and the other side might have the verb in the past tense. There are many different types of word bricks or types of words included. So all of the forms of to be, nouns, verbs, adjectives, prepositions, really all of the building blocks that students need to form complete phrases and sentences in English. And word bricks are meant to be printed on thick paper, but you can really DIY this and make your own version using anything that you can write on with a permanent marker. So pieces of paper will work, but things that are thicker will hold up better over time. So cardboard, flat stones, even large uncooked beans or erasers are all great options. And your word bricks do not need to all be made from the same type of material. They don't even need to look similar to each other or look like bricks at all. So some nouns can even be represented through small toys or objects, like you see on the slide here with the animals being represented by toys. And you can also have your students help you create these word brick sets to save time and get them engaged in the activity. For many activities, it's not necessary that each student has the same exact words in their set that they're working with. So you won't need to make multiple sets of the word bricks. But if you have a larger class or you want to have students work with the same words or maybe work individually, then you might need to make multiple sets. And the number you need just depends on the size of your class and the activities that you want to play. But the great thing is that the Activate Teacher's Manual tells you how many word bricks are needed for certain activities. So you can easily determine how many bricks and how many sets you would need. One great game that you can play with this is a sorting race, where students race to find all of the bricks of a certain type. To set this up, you would have students work in pairs or groups and give them all the same number of word bricks. They don't have to be the same exact words, but you should make sure that each group has a variety of different types of words in their set. You would give students 3 minutes to find as many words as possible from that selected word brick, or from that selection that you have given them. You would call out the timer and the word category and say go. And after the time is up, students would read out all of the words that their team found. This is a great opportunity for you as the teacher to make sure that students are correctly identifying words from that category. So we can see an example of what this might look like. Here might be a collection of word bricks that we give a certain team. And we would say that the task is to find as many nouns as possible. So after the time is up, hopefully we would see something that looks like this, where students have picked out the nouns from their set of words. Another game you can play is the longest sentence challenge. And this is great for individual work or also pair or small group work. You would give each student or team the same number of word bricks, but again, they don't have to be the same exact words. You should make sure that the sets have a variety of words included in them and that each team has a wild card brick so that they can make a word that they might need but don't have. You would give teams 2 minutes to make the longest sentence possible, and they can only use each brick one time. After time's up, teams will compare their sentences, and you can have teams challenge each other if they think someone made a sentence that isn't grammatically correct. This gives the option for peer-to-peer feedback, so students can really assess and give feedback to each other. But you as the teacher can also chime in and offer any feedback that might be necessary. And the team with the longest grammatically correct sentence will win. So let's take a look at this. Kate, audience, here is your set of word bricks. And I'm wondering, I'm going to give you a very short amount of time, maybe 30 seconds, but take a look at these word bricks and tell me what is the longest grammatically correct sentence you can make. Keep in mind, you can only use each brick one time, but there is a wild card in there that you can use to make any word that you want.
Okay, here's our challenge, everybody. Who can make the longest sentence with these words? I know that you're all thinking about it. You're all starting to type. We're going to give you about 30 seconds to complete this activity, and I can't wait to see who the winner is going to be of the very longest sentence from this set of words here. Don't forget you have this wonderful wild card, which means you can put whatever word you want, only one of them though. So just use one extra word if you are having trouble. What do you think? The wild card makes language look like a mountain. Very nice. It's grammatically correct. What else?
The winner so far.
What other wonderful sentences? I have a question from Mohammed. What age is asked to form this long sentence? So what age group would this be for?
So you can use this activity for any age, but you would want to tailor the types of words you're giving them for the age. So I wouldn't use this particular set or this number of word bricks for young learners. This would be more of an intermediate or advanced level, but you could give young learners a collection of 10 words that are a little bit more simple if you wanted to use this activity for them. So it's very scalable.
Great. From Kim, we have our student, oops, I missed it. Our students like to see mountains and rivers. Very nice. Students like to go to the mountain, from Kareem. She was happy and boring like a student. All right, very good, everybody. Thank you so much for participating.
Yeah, wonderful. Those are all great example sentences. One that I came up with is, you ask our new English teacher what makes her happy. So it's about the same level or the same length as a lot of the sentences we heard. But again, this is just a fun way for students to play around with word bricks and practice building sentences. You can do this in a virtual environment, much like we just did here, where you put up a picture or give a list of the selected word bricks. You give the class time to think, and then they post their sentences as comments or in a discussion board. Again, you can have the class challenge each other to figure out if sentences are grammatically correct. And then the student who has the longest grammatically correct sentence will win. All right, so let's also take a look at a game you can play with word bricks called Word Brick Bingo. This is a very fun game for making connections between the spoken and written forms of the words, and it's really fun for all ages. So to set this up, you will have students draw a 3x3 chart. This will be their bingo card. So Kate, do you feel like playing some bingo today?
Yes, that sounds great.
Wonderful. So please go ahead and make your bingo card now, a 3x3 grid. And audience, if you want to play along, please go ahead and make a bingo card now. And for today's game, we're going to keep it very simple. Everyone is going to use the same 9 word bricks that are shown here. What you will do is put 1 word brick in each square of your card until your card is full. But make sure that you're putting these in at random. You want to have a unique card that's different from other people. So make sure you put them in a random order. All right, so let's go ahead and go through the instructions and then we'll play. So you want to make sure that you let students know the objective, which is to get 3 marked squares in a row. And to get a marked square, students have to hear you call out that word. Once you call it out, they will mark their card. And you will continue calling out words until someone has bingo. If it's your students' first time playing, make sure you let them know that they have to shout out bingo once they have that line of 3 marked squares. And you as the teacher should mark off the words from your list as you call them out. And you will continue calling until someone has bingo. Okay, so let's go ahead and play. Kate, audience, are you ready?
I'm ready. I think our audience is ready too. We're excited.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right. So typically you will play this game until one person gets bingo. But today we're going to play until Kate gets bingo. But let's see if anyone in the audience can get it before her. So audience, once you have it, put it in the chat, put in bingo. And Kate, once you have it, be sure to shout it out so we know.
Sounds good. We're ready.
All right. Cat, cat. Do, have, the, down, on.
Bingo. Ooh, also, I saw a couple of other people who tied with me, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's see, Kate. Let's take a look at your card and see if you have bingo. Okay, so it looks like you have on, have, and do. Wonderful. So congratulations, Kate, and everyone else who got bingo. The last step in this game is to make sure that you review the student's card after they call bingo to make sure that they actually have the words that you've called out. All right, so these are a few things you can do with word bricks, but I'd love to hear what you think some of the benefits are from using word bricks or from these games.
Yeah, these were all really fun activities. I hope you guys all had fun as well. Looks like lots of people got bingo. So I don't know if you beat me or tied with me. I think most people tied with me. So what do you think? What are some benefits of using word bricks? It engages students from Jennifer. It's motivating and fun. It creates collaborative learning. Hazel says it's fun. It gets students interesting from Sunny. And it also helps you practice listening skills. Very good, Nico. And it helps students to work in groups from Mohammed. And students can practice listening and spelling at the same time. Awesome. Yeah, great ideas, everybody. Thank you for sharing.
Wonderful. Yeah, those are all such great ideas. There are so many benefits to using word bricks. A few of them are that they're just an excellent way to promote active grammar study because students get to learn through exploration and play rather than through just studying explicitly taught rules. There are also many different games and activities that you can do with this one set of materials. And it's highly adaptable. You can use it for a variety of different grammar points. You can also use it to differentiate your instruction by including some more advanced words and some more elementary words. So it's really great for multi-level classes. And you can even expand your collection to add constructions and vocabulary that you want your students to focus on. All right, so we have taken a look at 2 resources already, including Create to Communicate and Activate Games. Now let's take a look at American Teens Talk. So this is a collection of interviews with young people. It includes 30 interviews, the audio and written transcripts of them. The interviews are read by individuals with authentic speech and from a variety of different accents. And the resource also gives ideas for you to do possible listening, reading, speaking, and writing activities with this resource. So it's not just audio and transcripts, there are also activity ideas. One of the most straightforward ways to use this is for bottom-up and top-down listening. In bottom-up listening, students would listen for specific information. So you would play the interview and have students then answer comprehension questions. So if you are having the interview with Amy being played in the class, you could then have students answer questions like, what instrument does she play? And how is she celebrating her birthday? For the top-down listening, you would have students focus on the main ideas and analyze what they heard. So you could play the interview a few times and then have students answer questions that focus on those main ideas. So things like, what did you learn about the interests of this person? Or after listening to the interview, what is something you would like to ask them? Another great way to use American Teens Talk is to study authentic speech. So this is content that uses the target language in a realistic and natural way. The interviews in American Teens Talk are natural English because they use the real words of real teenagers, and those are read aloud in their natural accent and natural speech pattern. So these recordings might not seem as simple and easy as some of the English in textbooks and other materials that your students might have, but it's great for listening practice because it's real, authentic speech. So let's go ahead and listen to this portion, which is from an interview with Amy.
What have you been doing this week? We haven't been doing a lot at school because it is right before the break, so we don't do a lot. They try to squish in a lot of tests during the week before we get out so we can start a new unit after the break. So I had a math test and a science test. In orchestra, we've been learning new notes, how to read them, and how to do them on the instrument.
Okay, so from this very short clip, there are so many things that we could teach or review. In just these 2 paragraphs, we heard 3 different contractions, and there are also a number of informal or slang expressions that your students might not know, but might appreciate knowing to have more authentic speech or understand authentic speech a bit better. But there are many other things that we can use this for. So what other language points could you teach with this portion of the interview?
Yeah, Jennifer says this is a great teaching resource. I agree. What other language points could you teach? Good. Yeah, you could have them take notes. Great. Nico says you could teach some tenses. Wonderful. Maybe you could have them review school vocabulary, school subjects, and things like that. Mm-hmm. Constricted forms, transition words, grammar, phrasal verbs, word classification for Mohammed, and definitely listening skills. Yeah. So wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. as you all noted, there are so many different things you can study with this, so it's just such a great resource for reviewing grammar points and authentic speech. But another activity we can do is a listening cloze infogap activity. So to start this, you would pull one of the transcripts. Here we have that same portion of Amy's transcript, and you would turn it into 2 different cloze exercises, but you would want to make sure that you're deleting words differently in the 2 versions. So if we go on, we can see that there are 2 versions here. In the version A, we started deleting words at word 7. And in version B, we started deleting at word 4. So we have 2 different versions that students can use, and there are no words that are deleted in both versions. This is very important for this activity. Next, you would hand out these to students and alternate between giving version A and version B. Students would read the transcript and guess any missing words, and then they would listen to the interview 2 times and write in the missing words as they listen. After this, students would partner with a classmate who has the other version, and they can check each other's work. So the feedback here is student-led, and it's really great for having students work on their own without much teacher supervision. So it's great for large classes, but it's also very empowering and motivating for students and great for building autonomy. But the teacher can include a whole class discussion after this peer feedback session to address any questions or challenges that they heard students have along the way. So the last activity I'm going to talk about with American Teens Talk is a post-listening activity where students interview their classmates. First, you would teach or review using reported speech. If you had just listened to the interview with Amy, you might say, Amy said that she had a math test and a science test this week. Once you've reviewed that, you would have students listen to a different interview and provide them with the transcript so they can follow along when they listen the second time. As the teacher, you would then model using reported speech about the interview you just listened to and have students practice. And then students would need to create interview questions. And so if we can go on to the next slide, we see that we can have students create interview questions, either based on things that they heard in the interview or things that they want to know about their classmates. And you as the teacher can give guidance here, depending on your student's skill level. It might be vocabulary assistance or question formation assistance, whatever your students might need support with. And then students will interview a classmate and take notes during that to record their partner's answers. And finally, students will present this to the class using reported speech. So your feedback to students should really focus on their use of correct reported speech. You can do this virtually as well. It would look largely the same. The interviews could be done in breakout rooms or through a phone call or voice memos. And if that's not possible, students could even send text messages or emails to each other and turn this into more of a written interview. And then students would present their findings either in a virtual class or as voice memos posted to the class page, or even as a text message or a message sent to their instructor. All right, so we have taken a look at American Teens Talk, and let's move on to our final resource for today, which is Sing Out Loud. So this is a collection of music. There are 3 albums: children's songs, traditional songs, and American rhythms. And across these albums, there are 47 total songs, the audio and lyrics. There are also activity ideas that you can do before, during, and after listening to the songs. So a listening gap fill activity is great to use with these songs because you can really tailor the activity and the song to fit what you want to cover in class. So to start, you will pick a song and create a gap fill activity using the song lyrics that are provided with this resource. You'll then play the song and have students write in the missing words. And after listening a few times, students will compare answers with a partner. And then as a class, you can discuss the correct answers, any questions or challenges that students had as well. And then I recommend playing the song one more time so students can follow along with the correct lyrics as they listen. So let's take a look at what this might look like. Here we have two portions of a children's song, Hokey Pokey, and we are going to play the first audio. After you listen to the audio, go ahead and put in the comments in the chat the words that fill in the gaps for number 1.
Here we go. Put your right hand in. Take your right hand out. Put your right hand in and you shake it all about. Do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
Looks like our audience is getting the correct answer.
Yes, wonderful. So I see a lot of hands coming in. Wonderful. That is the correct answer. Let's go ahead and listen to the second audio.
Put your whole self in, take your whole self out. Put your whole self in and shake it all about. Do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
I see a lot of correct answers again here. Self, 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 self. Awesome.
Wonderful. Great job, everyone. So this is obviously more of an elementary song. All of the gaps were the same words. So it's great for young learners, but you can definitely scale this to your students' level by picking a more advanced song or deleting a greater variety of words. You can do this in a virtual environment as well by posting the gap fill and the song to the class page, and then having students fill in the missing blanks on their own. You could even assign this as homework or as an activity that students do on their own time if you aren't meeting all together at the same time for a class session. All right, another activity you can do is a pre-listening activity called Find Someone Who. This is a really fun activity that gets students up and moving and talking to their classmates. So first, you will pick a song that you want to use and create a list of questions that are related to the song's themes and key vocabulary. Then you will give students the list of questions and explain any new vocabulary. Students will then ask each other these questions. And for each question, they have to find one person who can say yes to that question. Once they do, they'll write in that student's name next to the question. But the challenge is that students cannot use the same person for more than one question. So they really have to talk to a lot of people in the class to find different people who say yes to questions. So this is a possible way you might set this up. You could make a handout where students take it around and write students' names in the blanks. Or you could put the questions on a blackboard or a whiteboard and have students just write the student name in their own notebook. Students would then go around the room and ask these questions until they have someone who can say yes to all of the questions that you have provided them. And then you as a class would review these questions and have students share who answered yes to certain things. So this is a great, again, activity you can do to get to know each other. As the teacher, you will also want to address any questions or common errors that you heard during the activity. And finally, you'll move into the listening portion of this activity where you play the song you selected and you will have students circle or write down all of the words that they hear in the song that were also in the questions they asked. So we can see here the lyrics for the song I've Been Working on the Railroad, which all of those questions were based on. And everything that's circled in some form was in those questions as well. So it's great for reviewing vocabulary. This is one possible way to use the Find Someone Who activity, but I'd love to hear how you might adapt this for your students or your classes.
Yeah, let us know, everybody. How would you adapt this activity for your students? What do you think? Maybe you could use different vocabulary, different questioning techniques. What do you think, everybody? How could you adapt this activity? You could use it to learn about Cloze or review Cloze vocabulary, practice spoken English, to learn a particular grammar structure, teach questions, vocabulary about food. Awesome. Wonderful, everybody. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, wonderful. Those are all great ideas. A few possible ways you could also adapt this is by changing up the questions. So you might provide students with the keywords or pictures that represent key vocabulary, but then students have to form the questions themselves. You could even make this more challenging by having students make 2 sets of questions, one in the present perfect, and then a follow-up question in the past tense. All right, so we have come to the end of our session today. We have reviewed 4 wonderful free American English resources: Create to Communicate, Activate Games for Learning American English, American Teens Talk, and Sing Out Loud. But before we conclude today, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these resources do you think you will be able to use with your students?
Yeah, let us know, which of these resources do you think you will use with your students? Create to Communicate, Activate Games, or those word bricks, American Teens Talk, or some of those great songs. Lee says that he'll use bingo games. Pintilli says she'll use word bricks. American Teens Talk from Jennifer. Lots of people saying word bricks, sing out loud. Wow, those word bricks were really a hit, it looks like. American Teens Talk, awesome. I think they all are very interesting from Lauchine, wonderful. Awesome, thanks everybody,
Wonderful.
thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that you are interested in a lot of these resources and planning to use them in your classroom. There are so many wonderful free American English resources. So these are a collection, but make sure you do check out the website as well to find more resources you can use. So thank you everyone so much for joining and for your great ideas that you provided today. It was so great being here with you all.
Thank you so much, Ellana. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for sharing all of these great resources and ideas with us today.